Mr. President, Indonesia is honored to introduce draft resolution L33 entitled Demand for Ceasefire in Gaza in this resumed 10th emergency special session of the General Assembly. This resolution, presented amidst an unprecedented and devastating crisis on the Palestinian people in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem and particularly in the Gaza Strip. This draft resolution underscores the high urgency, absolute necessity for the General Assembly to act now, once again, to demand a ceasefire. We should not let the international community to fail again to act swiftly and responsibly. Over the past 14 months, Gaza continues to be under relentless siege and military assault by Israel, without conditions described as appalling and apocalyptic. We must prevent further catastrophic loss of life and destruction. Mr. President, 1 year ago, in this Assembly, following the veto of a permanent member of the Security Council, 153 countries supported GA Resolution ES 10/22, demanding a pause, an immediate ceasefire, a humanitarian ceasefire. Compliance by all parties to their international legal obligation, especially protection of civilians, as well as the release of all hostages. Unfortunately, that resolution was not followed through. We must thus ask ourselves, how many lives could have been saved? How much suffering avoided? And how much destruction prevented if the demands for a ceasefire had been respected? If Israel respected international law, its charter obligation, and listened to the clear voice of conscience of the international community instead of persisting with its crime, if accountability had been enforced and veto not used to shield these actions. It is time to change the trajectory, to save 2 million children, women, and men in Gaza, alleviate their suffering, and provide them with immediate assistance, relief, and hope. Accountability and justice must be pursued, and a path towards peace must be chartered. This must begin with a ceasefire to stop violence and protect innocent civilians from further harm, including by immediate actions in accordance with ICJ provisional measures. Mr. President, today, as the casualty has tragically surpassed 150,000 Palestinians, 70% of whom are children and women, and with over 1.9 million Gazans displaced under inhumane conditions, deprived of essentials of life, we return to this General Assembly with an urgent appeal for collective action. We cannot remain silent in the face of this abhorrent situation. We must uphold our legal, political, humanitarian, and moral obligation. I repeat, our moral obligations. In the face of yet another veto and the Security Council's inability to implement its own resolutions, including resolutions 2735, the General Assembly must act to fulfill its charter duties. Let us urgently and collectively act to establish an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, to silence the gun, to stop the bloodshed, and protect the Palestinian civilian population under Israel's illegal occupation from further harm and to alleviate their dramatic suffering. Mr. President, there is no other way to end this carnage, to save human life. We need an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire. We need accountability, for all grave breaches of international law, including humanitarian and human rights law perpetrated by Israel, for all the war crimes, crimes against humanity, and acts of genocides committed. We must end the suffering. We must begin the path to recovery and swiftly pursue political solution to achieve long overdue justice and freedom for the Palestinian people. Indonesia thanks the 47 co-sponsors of this resolution. On behalf of the co-sponsors and in the name of justice and humanity, Indonesia urges all member states to support draft resolution L33. Let us act collectively to honor our shared responsibility, uphold international law in this critical moment. I thank you, Mr. President.